In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear brake hose with brake line attachment on this Ford F-150. This will be located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Let's prepare to remove our driver's side rear wheel. To do this, safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. If you have a center cover, go ahead and remove that. I'm using a small pry bar for this. I'm just finding the slot in the center cover. We'll pry this out in place. Once you have that removed, it exposes our 6 21mm lug nuts. Let's remove all of these and the wheel. Now that we have the wheel off, we have a clear view of our rear caliper. We're going to start along the backside at our bleeder screw. Now, prior to opening up the bleeder screw, you want to make sure you have some sort of collection receptacle. I have one that has a hose that can go directly onto my bleeder screw. Otherwise, just make sure you have a collection bucket underneath this area. Commonly on your bleeder screw, you're going to find that you have a protective rubber boot. Let's go ahead and remove that. You may need a pocket screwdriver. Just give that a quick inspection, set it aside. The bleeder screw on this vehicle, you're going to be using a 10mm. I've got my collection receptacle here. Let's get this in place. Once you're sure that the bleeder screw does open and you can see some fluid making its way out of the bleeder screw, we're going to make our way into the passenger compartment. Press the brake pedal all the way down to the floor and hold it there with something such as a pry bar. Now, after holding that all the way down, we're back at the wheel. We're going to close off our bleeder screw. Now, this is going to prevent fluid from making its way out of this area while we continue on. Let's get this out of here. Now, down along where the line connects to your center rear brake hose, we're going to use a 7/16 flare wrench to loosen our brake line fitting. It's extremely common on these types of lines for the fitting to be stuck on the line itself, and as you go to pivot this counterclockwise, you're just going to twist the line. We're replacing this anyways. If you need to, you can cut it off. You can use some cutters for that if necessary. There we go. We have movement from here. Now, just underneath your leaf spring, you're going to find a 10mm headed mounting bolt, which is holding this in place. I'm going to remove the bolt, just give it a quick inspection, and I'll start it back in a couple threads, leaving it loose, and we'll continue on at the caliper. Over at the caliper, we have our banjo bolt. We'll be using a 14mm to remove this bolt. Keep in mind, fluid may come out of this line. We got a little fluid coming out of there. A thorough inspection of the banjo bolt confirming it is reusable, and we'll set that aside. Now we can hold on to our line. We'll finish removing that mounting bolt and remove our left rear brake hose with line assembly. There it is, friend. Prior to installing the brand new part, we want to make sure we clean and inspect all mounting surfaces. We're starting over at the caliper. It's common to have one of your pre-existing gaskets in place. It needs to be removed. You never want to double gasket your braking system. Once you have that off of there, assuming there was one, just make sure you thoroughly clean and inspect the area. This looks good. Now we're following all the way over towards our center brake flex hose. This is where the next mounting point is. Go ahead and clean it up. Close inspection. We're not using any type of detergents inside of either of these ports. Just one last thing, we also want to make sure we clean and inspect the banjo bolt, remove any pre-existing gaskets that are on that as well. For this, you can use some parts cleaner if necessary. Just make sure it's all removed by the time you're done. Now it's time to install the brand new rear brake flex hose with line assembly. We're going to start all the way at the center flex hose area. We'll start in that fitting. Line it up. Make sure it's going in by hand. Now, I'm not tightening this yet. We want to make sure it is started in, but now we're making our way to the center mounting point. For this, we'll make sure that we have the small locating tab going into this portion of the rear differential housing. I like to use some anti-seize on the threaded portion here. We'll start in that mounting bolt as well. Let's tighten up this mounting bolt. Double check, make sure that's secured in place. We're also going to snug our fitting. Just using my 7/16 wrench. Okay, right there kind of stops. Use the flare side to make sure it's snug. Double check to make sure you have no movement in this area. If it does have movement, it's not tight enough. Now let's make our way all the way over towards the caliper. Now over towards the caliper, before we can install our brake hose onto the caliper, we have our cleaned banjo bolt and one of our brand new gaskets. Never reuse any of your pre-existing gaskets. We have that gasket on the banjo bolt. Now we're going to continue on installing this onto the brake flex hose. Slide it straight on through. On the other side of that brake flex hose, the next brand new gasket. Now there's a new gasket on each side. Let's get this in place along the back side of the caliper next. When we bring this flex hose into position, we want to make sure we have it at the right angle. Once you have that banjo bolt started in, we're going to bottom it out and torque it to 26 foot-pounds. The next thing we need to do is remove pressure from on our brake pedal, and we'll make our way back out here to our bleeder screw. We're going to gravity bleed the system. For this, we want to make sure that our brake fluid is topped off up to par. We're going to use our 10mm to open up our bleeder screw, and then we're going to wait until we see a steady trickle of fluid making its way out. Now that we're sure we do not see any more air bubbles making their way out, let's go ahead and close that bleeder screw. Now that we've completed our gravity bleed on this, the next thing that you need to do is make your way into the passenger compartment. You're going to pump up the brake pedal until it feels firm. If you find that the brake pedal gets firm, but then feels a little squishy and goes down towards the floor, you may still have air trapped in the system. If that's the case, you can continue on with another gravity bleed or do a manual brake bleed. That's the most likely way to remove all air from inside the system. Otherwise, just go ahead and clean up your mess and reinstall your bleeder screw cover. One more quick inspection in this area, we'll reinstall our wheel. Once you have your wheel in place, start on all 6 of your 21mm lug nuts and we'll bottom them out. Now with the wheel safely on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a center cover, install that now. Now when installing the center cover, the one thing that we want to pay attention to is the slot where we had pried from. If you were looking at the wheel, you're going to find that it has a notch. That notch would be located closest to your valve stem. Let's align all 3 of these areas and we'll tap this into place. At the master cylinder, we're going to go ahead and remove all the fluid from in this area so we can replace it with brand new brake fluid. We don't want to use any of the pre-existing brake fluid. Let's start by removing the master cylinder cap along the top. Now inside of this area, you're going to remove the brake fluid. This can be done several different ways. If you have a fluid extractor, you can go ahead and carefully bring it down to this area and remove as much fluid as possible. And we'll just go ahead and top off our fluid. We're using brand new .3 or .4 brake fluid. It's really up to you. Now we can start bleeding the brakes. We're starting at the passenger side rear. For this, it's going to be easiest if you have a second person. The second person will be inside of the vehicle and they're going to be pumping the brake for us. What we need them to do is pump up the brake approximately 3 to 5 times until it feels firm. Once it does, we're going to open up our bleeder screw and we're going to watch the fluid making its way out. We want to have only clean, brand new fluid, never any dirty fluid or even any air bubbles. I'm going to go ahead and remove this bleeder screw cover first. I have my collection receptacle, of course. We're going to recycle any fluid that comes out of this properly. Now on this caliper, I'm using a 10mm for my bleeder screw. Now as you can see, I had a lot of dirty fluid making its way out of there. Let's continue on with our bleed process. Go ahead and pump, please. Go ahead and pump. There we go. Now we got some air coming from there. Let's go ahead and bleed this again. Now, once you feel as though you've removed all the dirty fluid and air from in the system, go ahead and remove your apparatus, and we'll continue on cleaning our mess and reinstalling the bleeder screw cover for this caliper. Now, I showed you how to bleed the caliper on one side of the vehicle. You're going to go over to the driver's side and repeat this exact same process. Once you've completed that, make your way up to the engine compartment and top off your master cylinder. After that, we're making our way to the passenger side front wheel. After topping off that master cylinder, we're at the passenger side front, as I mentioned. Go ahead and remove your bleeder screw cover. We're using our 10mm for the bleeder screw here as well. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. Okay, that one looks perfect. Let's get one more here just to confirm everything's proper. Let's get that off of there. We can clean up our mess. Reinstall our bleeder screw cover. Now at this point, you need to go over to the driver's side front. You're going to repeat this exact same process, and we're ending back up under the hood. We're going to bring this all the way up to the maximum line. Just a little bit more. Reinstall your cap. Okay, friend, we finished bleeding our system. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you hop in the passenger compartment, pump up the brake pedal, and confirm that it stays firm. After that, reinstall every one of your wheels and torque those lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.